Hello and welcome to another episode of All Things Money. I'm your host Fatima Tawala. Today we have a truly high-profile roundtable with us. We have Ullah, the Deputy Governor of State Bank, Waqas Hassan, who is the CEO of Karandaaz. Karandaaz is an impact investment and digital finance platform. And if that is too difficult to understand, just believe that Karandaaz has been the driving force behind Raast. And finally, but definitely not the least, we have Muneer Kamal, Secretary General and CEO of the Pakistan Banking Association. The conversation today will focus on digital economy, the successes that Pakistan has enjoyed so far, and the way forward. Hello, sir, all of you. Welcome to my show.
Thank you.
So, my first question to you, Saleem Allah Saab, is can you explain very simply what is Raast and why is Raast important for Pakistan, given that there are other mechanisms through which a payment can be transferred from one bank to the other?
So, Raast is a very important intervention made by the central bank with the help and assistance of Karandaaz. And that intervention was needed to promote digital payments and digital financial services in the country. It's a part of our agenda to develop a digital ecosystem. One should understand that for a layman, that why Raast is needed. First and foremost thing that the Raast is providing, it is that it is a switch that ensures interoperability, so that the public having banking relationships with variety of banks can interact and transact with each other through that switch, through that platform. That platform is having the accounts of all the banks, so that the payments could be settled instantly. The critical feature or the very prominent feature of Raast is that it is instant. All the payments are made and settled instantly. There is no reconciliation. Under the normal payment mechanisms, although the payments are released and remitted between the payer and the payees on instant basis, but the settlement is made subsequently. But in Raast, both the payment to the beneficiaries as well as the settlement in their respective bank accounts is made on an instant basis. So Raast, you would say that it is the only instant payment system of the country. The other payment systems that are available, there are other switches which are also operating in the country. But Raast is the only instant payment system that is available for Pakistan. And I would say that Pakistan is amongst the 30, 40 odd countries having that instant payment system. And to me, Raast is providing the basic pivot that on the base on which all our digitization efforts are evolving and are being promoted. So that is providing us that basic pivot. It has 3-4 major features that are available. One is the P2P use case, where the person-to-person payments can be made. And we started in 2021 these P2P payments, and today we have more than 50 million Raast IDs. Then the next use case on Raast is the bulk payments. And in the bulk payments, all the government payments, all the corporate payments, this is something which is one to many, that one account and there are thousands, rather hundreds of thousands of beneficiaries that could be given payments and given credits. So under the bulk payments, the government payments have been digitized, and we have a plan with the government, agreed with the government, whereby all government payments, the federal government payments, the provincial government payments, even the district government payments will be digitized by December 2026 this year. And we have covered a huge amount of distance in this, and we are way ahead of our targets that we were achieving. The third very, very important use case of Raast is the person-to-merchant payments. Here we started a bit, I think it's somewhere in 2023, but the traction is there. Right now we have more than 3.3 million merchants onboarded, out of which about 1.6 million merchants are actively using that Raast platform. The traction is increasing, and what we believe that in the next 3 to 5 years, you would see that bulk of the transactions in the economy are being made through the digital platforms.
Thank you for explaining Raast so clearly. We have come a long way over the last few years. As Karandaaz has been the enabler and the facilitator of Raast, can you walk us through the journey and the milestones it has achieved in the last few years?
Thank you very much. I think we'll have to start from when we were funded by the Gates Foundation and the philosophy they had. So the philosophy, after lots of research at the Gates Foundation through a level 1 project, was that there were certain principles which were evolved. That if a country has to grow on modern lines, what kind of payment system does it require? So, in every country there is one or the other payment system which exists. But for a modern economy, what type of payment system is required? So it is based on what we call level 1 principles. So which is, it has to be, as Saleem Sahab explained, interoperable. It has to be instant.
When you say interoperable, what does that mean in layman terms?
Okay. Interoperable means that, there are a number of financial actors or financial service providers, banks, fintechs, wallet holders, payment service providers, which exist in the market. Now, whether they can transact between themselves or not, that's called interoperability. I give you an example. If you have a Jazz phone, can you only call Jazz number?
No.
Or if you have, one SIM, you can call all numbers. Now, that's called interoperability in the mobile world. Similarly, in the bank, if the banks or the financial institution can transact throughout the entire universe, that's called the interoperability of the banking system or of the financial system. So the payment system has to be interoperable. So it's not connecting only one class of financial institutions, meaning thereby not just the banks, but all type of financial institutions. So that's what interoperability is. So coming back to level 1 principles, it has to be interoperable. It should be instant. It should have the shared capability of, say, fraud management or those analytics. It should have a messaging standard which can carry contextual information. What does it mean in layman terms? Normally, when a transaction happens, or previously in previous systems, what did it contain? The amount and who is sending and who is receiving, right? But if it includes, say, that the payment is being made to a laundry for X many rupees, or to a vendor for this kind of supplies which were made. Now that's called contextual information. So that's also, because the messaging standard is ISO 20022, so that includes, that has the capability to include that information. And another important feature is that it is based on a kind of a cost recovery model, meaning thereby that it can position the payment system as a public good payment rail, so that everybody can benefit. It's like a highway on which everybody can come on, and it's not exclusive to a certain class of consumer or financial institutions only. What has been our journey? So I think with this futuristic vision and the grant money which gets provided, we were able to co-create this institution or this platform as Raast. First, the capability was that, you have to create the solution, you have to hire the vendors, and then you have to sequentially roll out the use cases. The first was the bulk payment use cases, which basically means what? One institution sending payments to many. Then was person to person, like individuals can send. The next was person to merchants, that the people can make payments at the shops or at the business counters. Now we are at a stage where this system is fully set up, it is functional, it is integrated in the entire banking system. The use cases have been introduced, so the system has the capability to handle those use cases. But now the challenge is adoption. And all of these institutions, banks association, central bank, Karandaaz as secretariat for the Prime Minister's Steering Committee on Cashless Economy, has certain targets given by the Prime Minister, and then we are implementing that adoption challenge. I'll add, if you allow, a couple of more things. it was explained that what is the utility and objective of Raast. It's true that obviously it's the central pillar for a digitized economy. In pure economic sense, what matters is that if the economy is more formalized and the cash is not in the physical form and in the banks or in the financial institutions, it enhances the bank's ability to generate credit. They will not keep the money with themselves. Apne paas to nahi rakhenge. They will on lend. Also, when the payment rails are more efficient, the bank multiplier or the velocity of money comes into action. And that's also enhances the economic growth. There's an international dimension too. I'll come to that later maybe. I think that's...
So we have the regulator, and it makes sense why the regulator would want Raast. We have the enabler, the facilitator funded by Gates Foundation, have the whole ecosystem. But the onus of it falls onto the banking sector, right? You have to implement it. What have been the challenges so far?
Okay. First, let's look at the financial sector of Pakistan at the moment and why I think the adoption of Raast or adoption of digital transaction will increase many folds. We've done very well in the last few years. Just as an example, I think in the last 3 years, the Raast transaction have grown 9 times. So people are adopting that, and it cannot be done without the financial sector. So the banks, at the end of the day, there's the banks which are making transaction, right? So there's a massive adoption. So Raast has proven its utility and its importance as we move forward towards a vibrant economy. So digitalization has to be part of that. The banking sector itself has invested massively. Most of the relevant banks have invested massively in upgrading their technology platform, because you need to upgrade your technology platform if you believe in digitalization. I honestly don't remember when was the last time I issued a check. My bank is my smartphone. I make payments, I receive payments. So it's moving in the right direction now. Raast has done fabulously well. Just to give you the numbers, P2P, their problem is solved as such. The first quarter numbers in terms of number of transactions were 530 million plus, right? The rupee value was 11.3 trillion rupees. The challenge for the banking sector, and indeed for all of us, are the P2M. The P2M, instead of compared to 530 plus million transactions on P2P, is only 4.3 million. And the value, as opposed to 11.3 trillion, is only 17 billion. So here lies the challenge. Even on that level, and this is where the banks become very, very important. Some people say banks were reluctant to push P2M. They had their own issues. Well, there was confusion a little bit, but now the banking sector is really pushing P2M. And the results for the first quarter of what we have seen, June 2025, P2M were 500,000 transactions. It moved to million. First quarter, 1.33, now about 1.5. 1.6. So the challenge was whether we can make 2 million. So it looks like we're going to make 2 million. This cannot succeed if banking sector is not. Banking sector have finally embraced and understood the importance of Raast. Initially, some people can say there was a little bit of hesitation because there was one link and Raast. In our neighbor, their one link is something called one something, and their Raast is UPI. They're both owned by the banking sector, but as I think somebody said, Raast is right now, it was housed in State Bank, Central Bank. They did a fabulous bank, and now it separate legal entity has become independent directors, or even the governance part is there. So the banking sector has embraced it. Some would say a little late, but we have embraced it, and we are really, really pushing out, because the more we push, the more customer base that we will have. So I think we are looking very good. The stage is set, and let's see how we move forward from there.
So my next question to you, Saleem, Ullah sir. So again, there's just this much you can do, right? You can set the policy, you can facilitate it, you can have this infrastructure. But if people don't know about it, if people don't understand it, there's not much that can be done to drive adoption. So in that scenario, how important do you think is financial literacy?
This is the challenge, like you see this. Because if we have still relatively modest adoption, particularly at the retail level, and similarly, at the low end of the market, low income segment of the market, they are predominantly having these digital accounts, but they are predominantly using those accounts just to receive payments and have the remittances, etc. And those then they go to an agent shop, a kirana store, and get the cash available from dispersed from that kirana store. To me, that is due to one, the lack of awareness. The challenge is that we must create that financial literacy so that they are able to use these funds available in their wallets. It's available. We have more than 240 million, it would be around 245 million bank accounts. And out of that 245 million, about 145 to 150 million are the branchless banking accounts or the wallets.
Mhm.
And they are predominantly owned by the low income segment. So they are used, whereas they are having those accounts and collecting the payments, but still they are not using those balances available in their wallets for the purpose of making their day-to-day payments, the groceries, for all the daily payments, etc. They need. So here the challenge is that if we are able to create that financial, we are investing extensively on creating that financial.
That was going to be my next question. What are the steps being taken?
Both through the digital platforms as well as through our physical means. We have 20,000 plus branches across the country of the banking system. Plus, we have various NGOs and social sector organizations that are working in that space. So they both through the digital platforms as well as through the physical platforms, that digital awareness is being imparted. The other critical issue with respect to the adoption that we'll have to fix is that we must make sure that this digital payment system is ubiquitous. It is available everywhere.
Mhm.
So the connectivity issues. So we have done a lot. The government has done a lot, but still we need to do a lot so that the connectivity could increase. And third one that also relates to all of us, that is making things simpler and convenient for the users, for the merchants, so that our objective is that cash should be as simple. Sorry, the digital payments should be as simple as cash is. But we have been living in a culture. It's a cultural sort of a backlog that we are living through. Like we are used to of making these payments through cash. So that's why through these financial literacy efforts, through the efforts of making things convenient and easier, and by having that ubiquitous nature of the digital payments infrastructure, I'm very positive that inshallah the kind of growth we have witnessed, as Muneer said, that just a year before we were less than 0.5 million merchants onboarded, which were active. Right now it is more than a million, but rather than 1.6 million active merchants that are available. So it's a huge growth. Government, in fact, I will give credit to the government. Prime Minister, Prime Minister himself chairs the Cashless Economy Steering Committee. He himself chairs that committee, for which the Karandaaz is the secretariat. And through that ownership, it has given us a lot of the that benefit, whereby we have been able to mobilize various government departments, which were earlier it was relatively taking more time to reach out to various stakeholders. Now that has provided that platform, and then government has provided a subsidy just to promote and encourage the merchants that they should adopt the digital payments. This year, the government provided 3.5 billion rupees of subsidy just to pick up the cost of merchant onboarding, so that the merchant shouldn't have to pay anything for collecting and accepting the digital payments. the fee that is to be paid to the banks for the purpose for these onboarding fees, etc. So that is also called MDR. So that is paid by the government. So that these are the incentivizations. So that's why the kind of ownership we are witnessing at the highest level in the government, not only the commitment but also the financial resources that have been committed for that purpose. So and as I said, the remarks that the government payments, that is the target given to us by the Prime Minister, that all the government payments has to be digitized by by 31st November 2026. So that is something which is joining. I'm pretty hopeful and positive that with these efforts, in creation of financial literacy, and with the with making these digital platforms, the apps more user friendly, we are pretty hopeful that as you said, the next 3 to 5 years, you can see a digital revolution. And to me, the digital revolution is something that where there is a culture of digital payments. Right now, being very honest, it's not a culture of digital payments. We have covered a lot of distance, but still, culture is not there. So that culture has to be built. And then you would see that culture that even the smallest of vendors, the milk shops and the vegetable vendors, all these small vendors, they are accepting digital payments. So then you would see that. I'm pretty hopeful that in the next 3 to 5 days, with all these preventive efforts, there will be change, inshallah.
I'm sure, given the number of crises this government has seen, the country has seen, we had the coronavirus, we had the Ukraine-Russia crisis, Pakistan went near default, then you have the current crisis, but through it all, the emphasis on digitization has not waned. Clearly, and the numbers show that the push is there. So, India has UPI, Brazil has Pix. I'm sure that we are headed down that direction too. But if I may ask for Kasab, there's a lot of research that comes out of Karandaaz. Would you say that Raast would influence financial inclusion, especially for women?
Most definitely. Because see, if you look at the mobile penetration in Pakistan, the numbers are very high. We do have this problem that not all SIMs are owned by women which are used by them, but they do have access to them. Now, there can be mobile accounts, obviously bank accounts which can be linked to SIMs. So what does it mean? That it immediately makes that bank account accessible to that lady. Another thing is that if you previously, if a lady requires or a woman requires a bank account, she has to carry the cash, or to do a business, carry the cash, go somewhere. Now there is obviously a risk of theft or dacoity or whatever you call that, or of losing that money. If it's in your account, that enhances the. If it's in your account, all those risks are taken care of. So it enhances the financial inclusion. So I would say not only for gender, but all rural areas or poor people who are marginalized segments in that sense, who are also scared of getting into the fancy building of a bank, they can easily relate to a mobile, because everybody has access to that. And mobile opens the door for the, for the same fancy bank account for you. So yes, we are sure that it would increase the financial inclusion for the marginalized segments of the country. Another thing I think Saleem Sahab was explaining, look at the daily life of a poor man. So what do? I mean, if you are a laborer, say you're a plumber, you go to someone's house and you charge money. Or you are a maid worker, you are given some wages. The economies that we are mentioning, in those economies, the small transactions are actually happening through that UPI or those kind of channels. So, and if you're carrying the mobile, you do not have to take the cash from your, your employer or to whom you're selling your services. You can simply, expose your QR code and you can receive that money into your account, and you know that it's in your account now. So there is a rational case for them also to be financially included, not only for them, but so to say, if there are cultural barriers which existed, which prohibited them from accessing that mobile account, those no more would exist, I think, in a post-Raast world.
So in a post-Raast world where we have women with mobile, SIM, internet connectivity, they have financial empowerment, because you cannot be empowered unless you have access to some cash so that you can at least step out of the house, buy something. So in a post-Raast world, even in rural areas, women would be more financially included and more empowered than they would be without it. So again, the onus of it, the implementation of it is on the banks. Now we have India's UPI. I mean, if you want to go buy a watermelon, if you're in India, you can just go and make that transaction. Do you see that happening in Pakistan? And also, given that when we use Raast, we have to, make that provide that data in which are we making it to friends and family? Is it what kind of payment it is? So does that data in any way help banks financially? Because banks are for-profit organizations, right? So what would be your incentive in all of this?
I think there are two things that you highlighted here. First of all, the infrastructure of the banking sector is changing rapidly to encourage these small transactions, small accounts. And yes, that gender gap, we have total financial inclusion is 67%, but the gender gap is 33% in that. We're aiming to do about 30% in the next couple of years. But as Waqas also said, the disenfranchised part of the economy, be it females or other poor people, as and when the small transactions are adopted. Now, what central bank has done in the last some of the years, if you look at that, just a little background, the banking sector, the accounts used by Easy Pesa and others, tremendous growth. You were giving the number of account holders. Right? So that was and the central bank adopted this and asked the banking sector to be part of that, and the banking sector enthusiastically became part of that. The next step of leading towards a mass utilization and small transaction, and those parts of the country where the banks have not reached, or those guys are scared to enter a fancy branch, is going to be the digital banks. So far, we've got 3 digital banks account. And we've started a project called eKYC, which is, by the way, part and parcel of this whole in the future. And the numbers that I see from one of the digital banks is staggering. So these are small accounts reaching out to God knows where we'll have the. The second thing that you asked for, raised the issue, which is very, very relevant, is how do you use this data? I'll go back to the eKYC. That platform that we are building on the blockchain, we can use cases are tremendous on that. Waqas Saab mentioned more than once, the data that is generated by Raast can be used, should be used by the banking sector in eventually making the credit decisions, right? We are trying to look into it. The banking sector is trying to look at it, a financial data exchange, which will, the objective is the same, but that we need data for that. And that data will come through with Raast adoption largely by this country. So we are acutely aware of that. It is in the interest of the banking sector. And the reason why we are interested in that, the more data that we have, the better the credit decision, whether to lend to somebody or not. So all of this ecosystem that is being developed, the center point appears to be Raast, but the banking sector is taking advantage. This blockchain technology that we are doing, we're almost complete with most of the banks in eKYC. You will see dramatic changes in that. And I tell you, the central bank is pushing us to do that. This digital banking thing is a remarkable achievement. 3 of these, and I tell you, the numbers that I'm seeing, and 2 more to come. So first it was branchless banking, had tremendous results. Now digital bank, and digital banks you authorize just when Raast adoption is taking place. So combine of this ecosystem, I'm very, very excited in the next 5 years, the adoption and financial inclusion, both for the male and female, inshallah, is going to improve a lot.
Just to add one thing, the importance of data. There is
The importance of data, but also the protection of data and data sovereignty. So
There has to be laws about it.
So, in one of the platforms of digital supply chain financing, that platform is operative. 4 or 5 banks are member of that platform.
Yeah.
And just based on the availability of cash flow data and the verified invoices,
Correct.
the the financing to SMEs is being approved and disbursed within 30 seconds.
30
30
seconds.
seconds. Can you
That's
imagine?
nearly
That is
instantaneous.
the
Use of data,
beauty
power of
of
data.
availability of data. So once the data will be available, what we are doing by bringing the people on the digital platforms, we are making them bankable. Because they were not bankable as no credible, reliable data was available with respect to the cash flows. And once they are available, particularly these merchants, when these merchants are in these digital platforms, so they are becoming bankable. So with this availability of data, you can imagine that what kind of financial impact it's going to create. So as far as the data privacy and data protection is concerned, being a regulator, consumer protection is one of the core objectives, because if the consumers don't have trust, be it the digital platform or the non-digital platforms, consumers must have trust in the financial system. Otherwise, your financial system can't operate. So to have that trust, we must ensure the data protection, the data privacy. There are, as the eKYC mechanism referred by Muneer, the data can be used, but with the consent of my data can be used, but only with my consent. So consumer protection, it has been and it will remain one of the core focus areas of any regulator, be this be in Pakistan or any other country. So that's why it's critically important that people have trust, both with respect to this data protection and data privacy, also with respect to the security and safety of the funds available, security and safety of the system on which they are making transactions. If the people don't have trust, then you're gone. All your digitization agendas and objectives are gone. So to have that trust, it's particularly important that the consumers are protected. In last year, I think in 2024 or early 25, we issued the liability framework. And what was the liability framework? It was that the digital platforms being offered by the banking system of the regulated institution they are admitted by the bank, they should have state-of-the-art tools that are based on the best practices. If any consumer incurs any loss due to the weakness in the control mechanism of that regulated entity, bank or whatever the bank is liable to compensate the consumers. So consumer protection is the core of our all our objectives, because without the trust of the consumers, we cannot achieve that objective, and that's why we have been running campaigns in collaboration with Karandaaz as well to create awareness with respect to these fraudulent elements. They are having frauds. We have seen tremendous decline in frauds after we have introduced this 2 years that level to care, but still they have the scams, and the scams, the fraudulent elements, they convince you in a way that you yourself make the representation to something. So that for that purpose we need to create awareness of financial literacy, the concept of
Okay, I just want to explain a related concept which is futuristic, and it's important how Raast is positioned when it comes to modernization of economy. So you may have heard this word digital public infrastructure. So it's a global theme. But the idea is that government services are digitized, and then through an interface, public is able to access them. And in order to do that, an efficient instant payment system is a key pillar of that. So without that, you could not create, you may have heard this word Pakistan stack or India stack or Brazil stack. A stack cannot be implemented in any country. So all these questions of data security, data sovereignty, consumer protection, consent are part of that entire global debate. So the good thing which is happening that not only with Raast, the regulatory stack such as digital banking regulations, liability framework, merchant acquisition framework, those have come into place. But beyond that, a bigger thing that the DPF framework is also coming into place in the country. So Pakistan Digital Authority has been created, which is now looking at how to digitize the entire government. And then within that, the role which the payment pillar would play. And it's not the payment data only we're talking about, it's the data, for example, if you're educated in Pakistani institutions, private or public, you have academic certification, say you are employed here by Dawn. Now they require whether you actually went to that school or not. So instead of you submitting them the degrees, you would just give them consent that they can access that school and their data, and they can see, okay, fine, you actually, same which happens in case of Nadra. So Nadra does not give the family tree to the employer, but you can see basically that, okay, in Nadra, whether this person is genuine or that ID exists or not, the banks can access. So in all of that digital public infrastructure framework, Raast will play that role. One more thing I think which came out of what was being explained is the social protections and the role that the Raast is playing for social protection. I think it's very, very important to understand that the entire BISP transfers, the whole body of beneficiaries of BISP transfers is actually women, is being Raastized. What it does is that it gives them the choice of having account whichever bank they want to have. So which means that whichever bank provides better service. And another important thing, I think in women empowerment, agency is important. So it gives them the agency over their savings, so you can retain that saving which is sent to you or the cash transfer in your account for as long as you want. So previously, you received the cash and you have to use it, say, or you received the cash which is available, you go, you do your biometric and you have to take it out. Now it lands in your bank, say. If it lands in your bank, it means that you can use it whenever you want to use that. It gives you agency. You can use it when you require that. It would earn deposit rate on that. You can transfer it to another bank, etc. So for social protections, there is an important role that Raast is playing, and it would generate a powerful data as well, that how much is being transferred to this particular account by any social protection system in the country, be it federal or the provincial or any other. So,
And you know how many beneficiaries? 10 million beneficiaries.
10 million beneficiaries of BISP.
Of this. And they would be having funds in their accounts. It's just a level of difference within each of these two Raasts.
And this is the one is P2P we talked about, P2M we talked about, P2G from public to government. For example, when I pay my taxes on my phone, that is P2G. That's about 80% adoption, very high percent. But government to public, G2P adoption is low, around 30%. So when BISP and others come on, so government to public also goes, and with all those benefits that Waqas was saying. As far as this Pakistan stack or India stack, stack, for example, it has Aadhaar, which is our Nadra. It has UPI, which is our Raast. It has the counterpart of One Link of Pakistan. So Pakistan is all the thing. Now question is how to, and by the way, the KYC in India for the stack to work, and this is for public, I think, is done by Aadhaar. But in Pakistan, since we've started the eKYC and the blockchain level, we can link it to Nadra, one of the layers that they talk about. And Pakistan is on its way, thanks to Raast and all these, towards having a Pakistan stack also. So all the fundamentals are there. How we build it and bring it all together is the challenge now for the next 5 years, I think.
एक और dimension I'd like to explain to you. So the role that Raast as a payment switch would play in remittances. So in the past, what would happen, or right now what is happening? So if I am based as a worker in one of the Middle Eastern countries, I have an account with a bank, say called Bank A. I walk to Bank A. I say that I want to send this money to Pakistan. Now that Bank A may or may not have a correspondent banking relationship with the bank to which I'm remitting the money in Pakistan. So they will find a bank B in the same jurisdiction, which has a correspondent relationship with its, say, another, call that B1, the B2 bank in Pakistan, which it has correspondent relationship. And then if I am sending money to a C bank actually, so all these 4 banks, A to B1 to B2, and then C, which the ultimate destination would come into play. Now, all that compliance relationship annually or periodically required a cost. Why? Because these were bilateral. These were prone to many sorts of inspections. The global future or the direction of travel of international payments is hub-to-hub payments, meaning thereby that if Raast is a hub, all banks in the country are connected to this hub. And similarly, in another jurisdiction, there is another hub. Say what we are doing now, Raast is in the first phase. I think that's the first project globally which is happening. Raast is being connected to Buna, which is a payment switch based in the Arab Monetary Fund. Yeah. And then the banks in the Arab in that jurisdiction are connected to Buna. So if Raast and Buna are connected, so at their own ends, they take care of the compliance and other needs. And, remittances are faster and lower cost as well.
So that would bring even more remittances within the formal net.
Formal net, and would increase the inclusion and would reduce the cost of remittances, which basically is ultimately borne by the remitter, which is to say our workers sitting outside. And the net effect on Pakistani economy would be much higher, obviously, because those are the savings for us.
They would just be using the wallets, the remittance. Overseas Pakistan, they have the funds in the wallets. They can use that wallet to transfer funds to here through that connection, because their respective banks are connected with Buna. So Buna is connected with Raast, and the Raast is connected with all the banking system to whichever bank the beneficiary had an account. So it is just a click of buttons. So in few seconds, the payment from UAE, from Saudi Arabia, from all these member countries, by 24 member countries, 24 countries.
24 countries for. So clearly the stage is set, right? We have P2P has been solved. We have BISP. We have discussed remittances. We have discussed how, say, somebody, a housemate can go and buy sabzi from the neighborhood store, not even a store, a vendor using Raast. All the stage is set. But the reality still is that there is a very high amount of cash in circulation. So what needs to happen, what needs to change in the next 5 years? There's a stage that has been set, that everything is in place, actually translates into the vision that we are painting today.
So you can see, as I said earlier, that we have been living in a cash culture.
Do you think as the generations change, it will bring...
No, Fatma, we have made inroads. And these inroads we have to be deepened. And so how they can be deepened? Through that financial literacy. What is there for the vendor, for the small vendor? What sort of benefits that small vendor is having to the usage of this market platform? The most critical thing is that one, that we're making things easier and convenient for them, but making them bankable. That cash flow history that we are making, that is something which is a real wealth that is being dedicated for them. So based on that, they will be part of the financial system, and they will be able to have access to these credits. So it will take time. We will all the regulator, the facilitator, and these distributors, as well as the government and the media as well, because the awareness part is still missing. Because if that culture is not, still we are using cash, so that is the cultural issue. So we must create that awareness. My suggestion is that I make payments to my maids, my servants, my vegetable vendor, my milk vendor, all through digital means. And that culture I had to create, just to convince them. There is only one person that I couldn't convince at the moment, is the one where I buy my meat. So he still says that because he has to make payments in cash, so that's why he says that I need cash. But that each one of us has been up to make efforts and play our our respective road. Then I'm pretty positive that we should keep on making things simpler and convenient, making the system ubiquitous. Should not be the case that cash is available everywhere. Why not? The digital payment is everywhere, every nook and corner. This facility is available. Very, very small vendor working in a very remote village having the digital payment facility available with it. So that has to be done.
There are, I think, system level changes which are also happening. So one is that the government to person and person to government payments, there are targets that these have to be 100% digitized. Now, where government has a control of making a payment, obviously they can digitize that. But where the persons are making payment to the government, you have to give an option there. And what the drive which is being monitored at the federal level and is being implemented at the federal level and across all provinces, and there is a healthy competition amongst the provinces, I can tell you, is that option is being created that in addition to cash, at least one digital mean would be available for the client to pay to the government. And you will see that slowly, and in some cases it has emerged, the differential rates would also start emerging. That if you pay in cash, you may be paying a slightly higher rate just because the cost for collection through cash for the government is higher. So आपको एक clerk बिठाना है, आपको एक बंदा बिठाना है
Somebody
जिसके
has to
खाता
physically,
maintain कर रहा है सब, then that cash has to be deposited somewhere, that some van has to take it there, and there is a cost
There's
to
a
it.
cost rate, yes.
So I think in on motorway, so I think they have a differential rate already that if you
Yes.
are doing that, so
Yes,
and
I
that
just went to Hyderabad. There was a differential rate between M-Tag and cash.
and that will start happening. Why? Because it just makes commercial sense for that entity
And
to
it's
do
faster and it's so much easier not to stand in that line.
it. So in that line, so for and that would start happening. So once people interact with wherever they interact with the government and that option is available and that's cheaper, you will see adoption. Another thing, I think, there are regulatory pieces which are in motion, which would also mandate that for certain level of businesses, majority of the businesses, digital option would have to be made available. Obviously, their adoption would have sequential and date-based targets, but that's what we would start seeing in the market happening. I think it's not something which is being just said that ki acha kaam hai kar lo. It is something which has very clear, concrete benefits. For government, very clearly the benefits are that you can track the payments that you made. It's the age of AI. You can run analytics on that. Imagine that if this whole room full of files are the payment data which is in paper and you have to do audit of that, you would need thousands of auditors. But if an entire data is available digitally, you have to run a very smart algorithm to find out if there is any issue with that. So it just makes sense to have the entire payment data digitized. Then for every politician, it always makes sense to bring convenience to the lives of people. So if there is something which they are giving, adding convenience to the lives of people, why not? And it's low cost. In case of, say, social transfers, directly the money from the government's account lands with the beneficiary's account. So the satisfaction that you want to create with your beneficiary is instant, immediate. So I think there are real benefits, and we would see on the merits of it, adoption being driven, inshallah.
Inshallah. So, one last question before I wrap it up. We just came out of Eid al-Adha. Cashless Mandis was a thing. What was the traction there?
You see that probably you will have seen the numbers as well. We started the drive that all these cattle markets, they should be digitized. Instead of people taking huge amounts of cash to the Middle East, they should be using their digital platforms. So this year, last year we had to attend about 5 billion rupees to platforms. This year, it was 31 billion rupees that we funded, and about 500,000 projects that were conducted in that. So slowly, but these are the one which are people and the payments. I myself made payment digitally for the goods that I purchased, but that person was not having the QR code. I made that transfer on P2P basis. He still had an account. Although the QR code, P2M, person, the merchant QR code was not available, but he had that account available. He provided me that account and I was able to make that payment. So that drive is there.
So the point is that did not get recorded. There may be
There
may be more additional
yeah.
payments which have
Yes,
happened
yes,
on
yes.
top
So
of
in that case, if we have very huge numbers of P2P, those might be P2M as well. A lot of P2M is
Correct.
being reflected in
Exactly.
P2.
Correct.
The challenge is to get as much as possible the adoption of QR code. For that, we need massive education, advertisement, or we need to do that actually.
Great. Thank you so much. I think that the future of the economy is very bright when we have such a regulator, enabler, and implementer. Thank you so much for coming on this show, sir.
Thank you so much.